For all of you out there listening, if you are in the market for any kind of software development needs, check out Studio NoCode. It's our agency that's built on Bubble experts with nearly a decade of experience building all kinds of Bubble apps: marketplace, social network, payroll company, catering business, data room, ad tech, legal tech. We got a little bit of everything. We've seen it all, and that helps us translate all of our knowledge into your app to build the best product for your customers. We built it professionally, we built it to be secure, and we built it to scale. And we're going to do all these things on time and on budget. So if you are looking for help getting off the ground, getting something to market, or anything in between, give us a call or an email or a carrier pigeon or whatever you want. Studio-nocode.com. We'll probably be there.
You're listening to This Week in No Code plus AI, with weekly episodes sharing the latest advancements of AI, plus exclusive interviews with founders using these tools. So without any further ado, let's get started. Welcome to This Week in No Code plus AI. I'm your host, JJ Englert, here with my co-host, David Pell, and back for another great week for This Week in No Code. We are interviewing one of the largest studio owners for no-code agencies that we know of, maybe on the planet. Matt Graham, CEO.
It is not a quick interview, but it is RapidDev.
RapidDev. They have 90 people on their team now. And last time I spoke to him, I thought it was 50. So they are growing significantly. For any of you that are looking to build your agency or anything, you're not going to want to miss this interview. So we're going to hit maybe 5 to 7 minutes of news and then get right into the interview. Before then, I also want to announce a couple of things. First off, I am hosting a no-code Black Friday sale. So this is a chance for brands, people that want to get in front of our audience, to submit deals, and then me sending all those deals to you. So the sale is going to start up on Sunday. What is that Sunday? It is the 22nd, and it's going to go to the following Sunday. So it's going to bring us all throughout next week. And go into our show notes to see a list of all the Black Friday deals for the no-code, startup, AI, SMB industry that can help you out. Hopefully this is a great chance for you to gain some more knowledge on courses, gain some SaaS credits for some of your favorite platforms all throughout this Black Friday sale. And if you want to participate, let me know as well. Otherwise, go to our show notes for more information there. Also, I am working on planning our annual no-code holiday party, thinking of the middle of December. Waiting to hear back on a couple of people. Otherwise, we will let you know about a date soon. But again, I'm going to work on putting together the No Code Awards, where you can all vote on your favorite platform, creators, etc. We'll announce the winners there. Also do some no code games and just come together for the new year. So hopefully working on that as well. Otherwise, David, why don't you get us started for the No Code News of the Week?
All right. I wish I had my badge because we are entering the world of agents. I think a lot of news swirling around recently. One of the big news stories this week, Asana announces their AI workflow agent, no-code builder, embed agents directly into your Asana platform and all of the things you need to get done. We're seeing a lot of this reasoning agent kind of work. Claude announced a couple of weeks ago their computer usable agent. OpenAI is releasing their computer user, right? The ability for an agent to use their own computer. And they're even talking about releasing their framework for building agents and swarms of agents. That's kind of one of the sets of agents, right? A swarm of agents. We're going to see quite a lot more happening. The idea behind an agent is that you can provide instructions and have it do something. There's a little bit of reasoning. We're seeing that with, the O1 models, some reasoning, some actions using tools, right? The original version of this is formatting things in JSON. Now it's taking another step, another action, and actively performing getting some kind of response, right? How do I call an API? How do I perform some calculation and then do something else over here? A little bit of back and forth. On the agent world, call and response kind of behaviors with voice agents are already pretty popular. And now we have computer agents.
Yeah, I think Glide recently launched something like this as well with their updated workflow builders, ability to have kind of agents built into those workflows to process common things. And it just generally, we're seeing across the board, like you said, get us our badge, because there's a lot of agents happening right now. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Interesting to see Asana go into this ballpark as well. But essentially, we have all this data. We need help managing this data, automating this data, doing things with this data. And that is a good way to leverage AI. So I'm excited about it. I think it's going to continue pushing us in that world. I still am thinking of that future where you have a marketplace of AI agents that you can kind of rent, and they can all kind of perform things for you that are trained very specifically. But I do think we'll continue to see these tools bringing AI agents in-house and allowing their users just to do what they're doing, but in a more automated way better.
Yeah, I think, agents are similar, not the next layer of automation. They talk about how agents are going to kill RPA, robotic process automation, which is a really brittle process to set up clicks and copy paste and things like this. Agents are a bit more malleable and flexible when you set them up. And so I think it's a natural progression. I still think automations like Zapier and Make, even Task Magic, like we saw the other day, are still super valuable and super helpful. This is just another step or operator that lives in those automation pipelines.
Yeah. Grid, Make came out with at their Make conference a couple of weeks ago, came out with their grid. And the grid was more about, managing the whole ecosystem of automation that come together. And our friends over at 9X agency, great no-code agency, talking more about how we're entering the age of orchestration, less about building the step-by-step and more about seeing the entire picture and having agents and everything, working for you. And you're kind of the orchestrator behind it all as we're building large technology systems using many different things. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think, we don't need to build that step-by-step anymore. Now we need to build the system that connects to the system and that does this thing. And we're kind of all graduating the level as more technology is getting into our hands. Do you want to just get on with our interview?
Let's make some s'mores.
With Matt Graham. Let's welcome him to the stage, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the s'mores episode of This Week in No Code. I'm the marshmallow, JJ's the chocolate, and we have Matt Graham right here, rounding out the s'mores.
From RapidDev.
Coming in from RapidDev, CEO, founder, RapidDev, all around a great guy. Thanks for coming on to the podcast today.
Oh man, David, I love that. I love that intro. Nice, man. Super pumped to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for finally coming on. We've been chasing you down for a while. As one of the...
I like to play hard to get,
Yeah, you made us work for it, but we have you here. We're very happy to have you here. You're one of the largest agency owners for no-code developers, largest no-code agency owners that I know. And we would love to hear more about your story, starting off with, how did you get into this crazy industry? Tell us more about you.
Yeah, what happened before Bubble?
The days before Bubble. So long
a
ago.
Good day.
It's just, no, man. But everything. I grew up in upstate New York, more cows than people, not an awesome place. Then I went and got my engineering degree. I was doing an internship.
I'm an engineer.
Chemical engineering. Chemical engineering.
Okay, so you were like, I'm going to go build like a power plant or
legit. Like I thought I was going to build a chemical plant. I'm like, guys, I'm going to build an awesome chemical plant. This was like the 2000s when like ethanol was taking off.
Chemical bed reactors and
I'm like
and piping. Okay, stainless steel everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Wow,
all that. Like even actually before I went to college, I bought like a 500-gallon milk tank, and I bought 2,000 pounds of corn from my neighbor, and actually started brewing ethanol. So I could like run my car on it. So I was like hardcore, like, okay, I'm going to learn chemistry. I read the chemical books. I get this stuff and I'm going to build a chemical plant. Like I just love building, right? This was like in the physical world still.
Okay.
So I go to school. I actually did all that stuff. I built like this little mini ethanol distillery plant in the backyard of my house in upstate New York. Crazy stuff. So then I go to college. I learn chemical engineering and I do these internships and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so boring. Like I'm literally sitting in a cubicle typing on a computer all day. And the guy my manager comes to me, he's like, you write the most amazing reports. How about you spend the rest of your life here in this cubicle writing these reports? I'm like, oh no, I got to get out of here.
So much for building with your hands, right?
Yeah. Like this is not what I thought I was doing. So I went back to school. I just randomly found a recruiter for the Navy. I asked him like, do I have to sit in front of a computer? He's like,
Yeah.
no. Do I have to do any sitting? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, count me in. That's literally how I ended up in the Navy, guys. I did very little thinking. I was like, okay, I don't want a desk job. This is what I can do. Ended up being
because like every time I call you, you're literally walking around town. You hate city. You are walking everywhere.
yeah, I'm standing right now. Honestly, I would love to just be walking around on my treadmill, but I was like, that's probably going to be pretty weird for a podcast. So I'm going to keep it civil, I guess, for this. But yeah, I'm always trying to move, guys. We have such a sedentary life, right? In front of the screen all day. So just
Well,
what
what are you
drove me
doing
to
in
the
the
Navy.
What did you do? What were you doing in the Navy?
I switched to nuclear engineering. So I was actually
That
an
makes sense,
instructor
okay.
at the nuclear power school. I always liked teaching, like talking, educating people. So I did a little tutoring on the side. So I was like, yeah, I could do this. This is awesome. And it was a great decision. The Navy was amazing, incredible. I loved it. Hard to have a family though. So I spent 4 years in Charleston, South Carolina doing that. But, not going to really be able to like get married, have a family and all that good stuff. So ended up leaving, moved up to Boston, was lucky enough, got into Harvard Business School. Even Harvard makes mistakes, guys. So anyone can do it. I got in, and the first thing they say is like, Matt, you studied all the wrong stuff. Like, you don't need chemical engineering. You don't need nuclear engineering. What are you going to do with all that? That's like all old economy stuff. That's like 100 years old. I'm like, oh, cracks.
Yeah.
I just wasted my whole life studying the wrong things. What am I going to do now? They're like, well, you got to get into this thing called tech. I'm like, okay, where do I begin? Anyways, long story short, met some classmates, started a company with them. And this is right like when no code wasn't even a word yet. So Zapier was out, Airtable was out. These are like your gateway drugs, like, just getting you started on that stuff. And then you discover Bubble eventually. And then you're like, okay,
What year
spent.
was that?
That was 2017.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that stuff was out, but like,
Do you like?
not mainstream.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to think about like when Vlad and Andrew from RapidDev were.
Yeah.
Were they also HBS?
2015, a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
it was like a couple years.
I think they
earlier.
were I think they were 2012, because if they were 2015, I would have met them.
Okay.
But yeah, I was like just a few years behind them. They're great guys. Awesome story too. And they I think they caught it right around 2012, because Josh and Emmanuel
Yeah,
went
that's
to
about right.
HBS as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great. I started fiddling around with these tools, and since I had like an engineering background, I knew like how to think logically through this stuff. I just didn't have like the programming knowledge to be able to read actual lines of code. So to me, this was like incredible. Wow. Like finally I can start building in the digital world. Like I've always been building in the physical world. I guess I don't have to build a chemical plant. I guess I can go ahead and build
Right. An
something
ethanol
digitally.
marketplace.
Ethanol calculator or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where it all happened. And then go ahead, JJ.
So you
So-
sorry.
So
Just
you started this company with friends from college. Are they still part of that company, or was that just one company and then they're like, that didn't work and then you started another company? How did you
Yes.
find?
So that company got acquired, and then I worked at the company that acquired us. And while I'm there,
What did you guys do?
the company that we started was called Cozykin. So it was a nanny sharing model. It's
Okay.
basically like, if you guys, JJ, you have kids, you know what it's like. Specifically in like big cities, it's very, very expensive to have childcare. I'm in Boston. Childcare is like $3,000 a kid. One kid who's 6 months old costs $3,000 a month. That's insane. So it was a nanny sharing model where you could have high quality care with a nanny, but you would share the care with like a neighbor nearby. That way you reduce the costs and also have a higher quality experience for your child. So yeah, it was awesome. Childcare is very broken in this country. So it's something I'm super passionate about and really wanted to try to address, because I had kids when I was doing that startup. I still have kids, but they were young, and I was going through all that phase.
Now we hear that.
Yeah.
How long?
hear that they're still here.
How long were you at that company?
I think, geez, I don't remember, guys. Maybe a year, 18 months, something like that.
Just really quick.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. That's when the company acquired us. So I worked on starting the company, growing it. We went for about 2 years, and then it got acquired. And then I stayed probably about another year at the company that acquired us.
Okay.
And that's when people were hitting me up like, hey, there's this thing called NoCode. I think you know something about this. I remember you telling me blah, blah, blah. You're like, yeah, yeah. And they're like, well, I have an idea. Can you build me this? I'd be like, sure, why not? I love building. So it just accidentally happened. Like I didn't even mean to start an agency.
So
It was totally
that
organic.
company that you sold that wasn't built on no code, that was traditional code?
Well, we had a traditional code engineering team.
Okay.
And like when the light bulb went off for me is I could just see what the speed was like working with our internal engineers versus like the non-engineering team. And it was so different. Like you could just move so quickly. I could go in and fiddle around. So that's part of it as well. But you could iterate, and launch just so much faster. So you didn't have to go to Harvard to realize like, oh, 10x faster and cheaper. Like I think the world's going to adopt this. Yeah.
This seems like a no-brainer. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's very few things in life, I think, that are actually 10 times cheaper. Everyone talks about their company needing to be 10x better. But like qualitatively, is it really 10 times faster, 10 times cheaper? No, most things are not. But this like no code is qualitatively, measurably 10x faster and better.
Which is good and bad. As an agency owner, everyone comes to you and say, hey, I want it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, right?
Yeah. I think we're in an industry where the cost is just always going to be driving down, and we gotta match that. We always have to be trying to figure out how do we reduce cost to our customers and pass that on. I think that's just going to be the nature of this market.
So when did you formally start RapidDev? You said you kind of stumbled into it with a bunch of people asking you to build stuff.
Yeah, so I had the other important piece of all this is I had met my partner who started RapidDev with me. I had met her a couple of years before, so we knew each other. She lived overseas in Poland, and like we were building our first couple client projects together. Like it wasn't really anything formal. It was just sort of like, hey, I have this project. You know, we like doing work together. Let's see if we can work on this together. And eventually one day she's like, hey, so we're done with that project. Are we gonna get another project? It's like, what are we doing here? I like, I guess we'll do that. I guess we need a website and a name. So, you know, start like 20 minutes thinking about a name, 20 minutes getting a domain, got a template offline, posted it on Webflow super quick, was done in a weekend. And then there you go. You have RapidDev born.
Yeah. That's not so different.
3 years ago?
That was 2021, February.
Okay. So 3 years ago, going on 4. And today you're around, what's your head count?
We got about 90 people.
90 people. That's more. Last time I spoke to you was like 50 people.
Every time I had it going up and up and up.
That's
wow.
great.
All right. So we didn't just get to 90 people. Let's talk maybe about like a lot of our listeners are agency owners trying to figure out how to get more clients, how to make this a realistic thing, how to make this a career, right? You've done a great job at that. Maybe let's talk about those beginning stages of like, maybe there was a time or two or a lesson or two that you learned that was like, this helped me break through to that next stage. Maybe you could just share that with us.
Yeah, what are the phases of the agency? Like it's 2 people, then it's 5 people, then it's like, where do things really make stepwise changes?
Yeah, I think, both good questions. And from like 2 to 10 people, like it's all very manageable for the founder, I think. Once you start to get beyond, let's say 15, 20 people at the agency, then the game starts to change because the founder can't be involved in every single project. They can't be the hero. They can't be the firefighter who jumps in and solves everything anymore. You start to have to rely on other people. So I don't really have a secret formula for all the listeners out there. It's going to sound a little corny, but like seriously, the main problems are all who problems, not how problems. It's not like, how do you build an agency? It's who are you going to bring on board to help you build the agency? So that's how I always think about these problems. There's a great book about this too. It can really change your mindset. You have to be willing to give up more of the pie. You have to be more about growing the pie rather than just trying to keep it all for yourself. But that will solve a lot of these problems and help you get out of the day-to-day and let go and grow the company. I think once you get past 15, 20, you've kind of given up your ability to kind of build the project or be involved in the project. But maybe once you're around like 30, 40 people, then you need to start figuring out how to give up sales, because that's usually like the last thing a lot of founders give up is the sales process.
Yeah.
So no secret bullet, I guess. But if you bring the right people on board that have the right incentives and are really passionate about what they're doing, then you can make it happen. But it's not easy. It's like easier said than done to actually find those people.
What does the structure look like for you to have a team in place to handle everything from A to B? Like, can you list out, like, not your entire org chart, but like some of the positions you have in place? Or like when you spin up a new project, is there a squad that goes over like what does that formation look like for people that want to know more information of how do they build bigger teams and who to hire?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. Like usually you have to, so the sales side is super simple. It's just like the guy who runs sales and then the sales team under them. But on the delivery side, it's much more complicated. You have to have someone who ultimately owns the project, someone who's basically the senior team lead, who's maybe they're not technical, maybe they're technical, but whatever it takes, they are going to get it done and you empower them in that way. So especially with bigger projects that have more people, you have design, you have QA, you have front end development, back end development. You have maybe Scrum Master. So there's lots of people involved, but you need somebody who can own it and somebody who is empowered to get it done and break down walls, because every project can hit a wall of some sort. It can be one little tiny thing that makes the app unusable, like an API limit nobody realized, or just like the API doesn't function like what the sales guy, at these third-party services that sell these SaaS products, and they have an API and they're like, oh yeah, I'll do that. But it actually doesn't do that, or you don't realize it until later on. So there's got to be some sort of like entrepreneurial spirit or owner on the other side of the project that's willing to get it, to climb that mountain to make it happen. So yeah, a lot of we try to have some senior oversight on a lot of the projects. It never goes well if you have a junior involved, without some sort of senior oversight to spot those risks. They've seen the movie multiple times. They know what's going to go wrong. They can hedge their risk. It's a risk game.
When you say senior, are you talking they have been a developer for a few years? They've been in the no-code world for a few years. They've been Scrum Masters elsewhere. Who are these senior people?
Biggest thing is the number of projects they've seen over a period of time. So the awesome thing about no code versus traditional code, we will hire people from the traditional code space, development agencies, and they can't do what we're doing because they just can't keep up with the velocity. They're not used to doing so many projects. So when I say senior, they've seen a variety of projects, probably at least 12 projects all the way through from start to finish. Once you've worked on 12 different products, you've seen a lot of stuff because they're not all the same. Everything's a little different, but you've seen a lot of client behavior, a lot of different types of personalities, a lot of different technical problems that go wrong. So it's more about just seeing a product life cycle that many times.
What the sales piece of this? We've talked a bunch about sales for an agency. I make this analogy, and I think I've told you this analogy once before. If and I know this comes from Harrison, our producer, who's not on the screen right now, but one of his roommates, has a beverage company, and so their job is just to get more people to sell their drink. So they have a meeting with Whole Foods, and they say, "Hey, can we put our drink in your stores? More stores, people will drink it. You'll make money. We'll make money. It'll be great." As software development company, we go have a meeting with Whole Foods, and we're sitting there, and they go, "Hey guys, what are you doing here?" And we go, "We were hoping you could tell us." Yes, right. Why are you guys here? Well, do you have any problems that need solving? Is there software we could build for you? Not the same kind of sales motion. So how do you think about sales? Do you have any, you obviously, for 90 people, you've got lots of projects in and out all day.
Yep.
What does the sales process look like at that scale?
Yeah, it's super interesting. I spend all day, every day thinking about this. Because most professional service firms, they don't have a repeatable, predictable model for sales. I went through a phase where I was interested in buying other agencies, other shops of different kinds. And I've joined groups like Hampton, where there's lots of agencies. And it's literally everyone asking the same question, where do leads come from? Nobody knows.
The lead
There is no
tree.
answer.
Grow
Those lead
on
tree,
the
right?
lead tree.
Yeah. It's totally random. Nobody knows when the next lead's going to come in or the next deal. It's all referrals. It's like word of mouth, and they just kind of go to bed and can't sleep at night. And then magically a lead comes in, a deal, and they're good. And they're all of a sudden having a good month or a good quarter because of that. So I think it's quite rare to find something that's repeatable and predictable. But what I've noticed is like a lot of that's in the B2B realm. Our economy is so diverse. There's so many creators out there. There's so many people that want to be entrepreneurs or have ideas that they want to execute on, and the bar is so low now. So the fact that the cost has come down has really opened up the demand floodgates. So think of Uber. Taxi industry was pretty small. Like you only really took a taxi unless if you were in the center of the city.
Yeah.
Now you
Or
Uber wasted.
anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's like massive. And the
Yeah.
same thing's happening with the software industry where pretty much everybody has a need, not everybody, but there will be a time where somebody comes across a need, whether that's to automate something inside their business or build some internal tool or build a consumer facing app that they want to kind of launch. And so because the cost has come down so much, it's really opened up demand. I don't think I'm answering your question because your question is maybe more tactical of like, how do you do this?
Well, I mean, there's some like, okay, who do you reach out to? How do you get people to like even take a call? Then there's also the other side of like, okay, great. They're sitting there on the call with you because they have some interest. What is a sales process like? You want a scope, you set a project budget, you're quoting them, or you're building, you're asking your team, hey, how long does this take? Like what happens on either side of these two of this call?
Yeah. So for the second one, it's like an easy answer. For the sale, you just try to add value. Like people are just generally, a lot of people don't know what it's like to work with a dev shop or work with a freelancer or get an app built or build a product. They may not even know what Bubble is really. They just kind of spend a few minutes online looking at it. So sales to me, like there's many different types of sales reps. We try to do consultative sales where we just try to continuously add value to you. And in any way, ask you questions. What do you want to know? Let us try to help you. Even once the call's done, let's produce something that's actually valuable for you. Whether that's just pointing you in the right direction, giving you some valuable resources to look over, connecting you to somebody, whatever it is, just always try to be that consultant or to add value. Then it builds trust because in professional services, like it's about the brand, but it's also about the person they're speaking to and can they trust you are going to deliver. JJ, are you going to deliver? I know you're not building the app, JJ, but like you look me in the eyes and promise me that you are going to not let me down and deliver something of value. And if you can look them in the eyes and feel truly, genuinely yes, then you can get, there's a level of trust there and intimacy that helps you get over the finish line together. So having a brand, being able to point to lots of us happy customers, doing references, but also just genuinely trying to be give rather than take.
Yeah. And then are you setting project costs and timelines? Like you're setting a fixed price. Hey, we're going to deliver based on the 4 calls we've had and what you've said in the future requests. We're going to build these 6 things that'll do ABC and it'll cost you 10 grand and we'll have it in 4 weeks. Is that kind of the output? Like, hey, here's this quote.
It's usually like a PRD, like a scope of work. And we do put a lot of time into that. Super painful. Each one takes 4 to 6 hours to write. You really have to understand what the client's looking for. Like that's how you have to a lot of people just will throw out a price and say, yeah, we'll do it for that. We try to be pretty strict about producing that document and because that's how we hedge our risk down the line of what we're actually promised to do. And it's not always fixed. It's a long time just hourly, but we're putting a lot of effort into figuring out what the estimate is. So we're not wildly far off. So it's sort of like, hey, you want a house? Okay. Do you want a dog house? Oh, no. Okay. You want a regular house? You want a castle? No. Okay. A regular house. Good. 2 stories, kitchen, 3 bed. We don't have to talk about like nickel or chrome faucet. We don't need to talk about gas versus electric stoves. But like, I generally know how much it costs to build a house. That's 2 stories, 3 bedroom, 1 kitchen, right?
Yeah. And where's your team located? Is it a hybrid all throughout the world? 90 people now. Where are they?
Yeah, all over the world. Though the more we actually do these corporate trips next week, we're flying out. Everyone's flying to Egypt, and we're having about 40 people, Egypt, about half the team.
Wow.
Because they're mostly in Eastern Europe, so it's easier to fly them out there. But yeah, it's gonna be an awesome time. We do it twice a year, and the more I travel, the more I realize like talent is equally distributed across the world. There's just so many incredible, talented people all over the world. That like there's obviously great talent in the U.S., but they have so much more opportunity. When I meet people overseas, I'm like, wow, you could really be running like a massive company, or you could be really like a top developer in your field, but you were just not born in the right place and didn't have the right opportunity, or couldn't speak English well, or whatever it may be. So yeah, it's just like truly talented people all over.
Yeah.
And so you do half in Egypt, and then you do the other half at some other place at some other time, something like that.
Yeah, usually we try to pick a different place every time. We've done 6 of these trips, so this is the 7th trip we do. Almost coming up on our 4th year anniversary. But it's really like, otherwise you don't have a culture, you don't have anything that binds people together. They're just random people on the internet with a heartbeat, and that's not how how are you going to get somebody to really deliver a project? To really like, hey, we got to work a weekend. It's not like we work all the weekends, right? But every now and then, hey, we got to deliver something. We made a promise. We have to fulfill our commitments.
Right.
I need you to get on board and do this now. And it's digital age, especially younger generations. They just, it's so easy to be transactional, to just shut off the computer or leave, the thread and just disappear. Right. But, that's what we're trying to build. We're building people that are really dedicated to what they're building.
And in like one of your resources, team members, like how do you have like allocation for them? Like with 90 people, like there must be some kind of a lot of math that goes into allocation of how many projects they can support, and then all that stuff, and the downtime. Like, how do you guys think about all that?
Yeah, the downtime, like, because we're in so many platforms, there's always ways to contribute to the community. So you could build templates, you could build plugins, you could build libraries. So we have some internal tools that we're trying to build. So even though there is the concept of a bench, no matter what, this is definitely a big problem for agencies that are trying to scale, is can you direct their time to an initiative that will have at least 3x ROI on it? So it may not be revenue generating in the short term, but it generates maybe something else. Maybe they build a lead magnet that you're going to put out in the world in 2 weeks. Maybe you're just going to launch a new template on the mobile marketplace, something like that.
Yeah. And you guys also run a lot of templates as well on mobile marketplace, right?
Yeah. We're trying to do that for other platforms as well. Just to it's all about the brand, trying to get the brand in many different places built up.
Do you think about, we were talking about allocation and time in the bench. Is there a target? I'm guessing these people are mostly employees or just full-time.
Yeah.
Yep. Is there a profit margin you're aiming for? Like what agencies, ideally service businesses are still pretty, like you want pretty high margins, but in services, it can be pretty tough. Especially if it's unpaid for time. How do you guys think about setting profit margins and goals?
Yeah. So profitability of the company, we're always aiming for 25%, just gross profit. And then like billable hours, I guess you could think of like utilization. We're trying to make sure each teammate is around like 80% of their time is on a project that's billable versus not billable.
Right.
It varies because you can't just like pull people in and out of things randomly. Like you gotta, if they're on a project, then they're, basically all their time for the most part, it's going to be billed. But if they're on an internal project, basically none of it's going to be billed. But like on the aggregate across the whole company, that's what we're trying to hit.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. So that's a lot of mouths to feed. A lot of like
that's why it's so important to have That's why you got to have this predictable, reliable engine. Otherwise, if you don't grow, you can't have good people. So I know this is something I always kind of think about, like, why not just coast? Why not just stay where we are and just enjoy life? But like when you have great people on your team, they don't want to just sit around doing the same thing over and over again. They want the next challenge. And if you want to get the next awesome person on your team, well, I can't just tell them, yeah, we're doing this and we're going to keep doing that, just and stay the same. But you have to have some sort of growth to be able to drive that story and drive actually attracting people to do bigger things. There's also this awesome theory of like do something that's 10x rather than 2x. Have you guys ever heard of this? Like it's easier to actually do, it's not easier, but maybe not that much harder to focus on the 10x initiative rather than the 2x initiative. And part of the theory is you can't inspire someone with a 2x problem, but you can get the best of the best person to solve a 10x problem. And when they solve it, it's a huge payoff.
But like, what's the end game? I mean, you're at 90. You just keep going.
10x, 900.
900. Like, you know,
No,
is that
David, dude, you're shooting way too low, guys. 4,000. Come on.
The size of Walmart.
But here we go. A couple of fundamental things. So if you want to have long-term success, then you do need to get bigger for not just like to have the growth story to attract the best talent, but also just diversification. Like who knows and our industry is like in a huge state of flux with AI coming and with, it could be a positive thing or it could be a fearful thing. Like, oh, AI is going to replace all of us. There's no need for agencies or even developers anymore. No one's going to have a job. So there's a lot of uncertainty. I'm keeping kind of the opportunistic mindset that there will always be professional service providers, and it'll be very similar to the website story arc. Like websites were very hard to build, and now they're much easier because you have Wix, Squarespace, Webflow, etc. So apps could end up in a very similar path. But the way to be successful is you have to get bigger, and you have to offer more services, and you have to have again, more repeat customer, more happy customers, bigger clients. So there's really, I would be scared if we don't have ambitious goals because I don't know what the long-term play is, or not the long-term play, the long-term trend for the market, what's going to happen. But I know if we're bigger, then we have a better chance of having success. So like right now, like we started in Bubble where there's other platforms out there. It's a big universe, right? So there's other platforms to learn, to be able to do work on. But there's also other services that go into not just, development. You could do technology, strategy, consulting. You can do, you could do automations. You can do design. You can even, like, once you build a product for someone, how are they going to market it? Offer marketing services. So there's so many services in the digital realm that are all quite complementary and can drive lead and acquisition to their sister services. I don't know if you guys know Peter Kane, but he has a holding company that does something similar. So I think that's like where we're heading is we need to add more platforms to the dev side. We need to add more services to the product side, design, consulting, and then we need to add more services beyond just building a product, but also helping you grow that product. So that's the long-term vision where we're heading. No matter what happens in the market, like we should be prepared to weather that.
Yeah, diversification will help. Not being platform specific will help. Like, who knows what happens if Bubble isn't here in 5 years? They don't raise another round. They run out of money. Who knows? Right?
Yeah.
Something happens. Someone else comes in. Right? 5 years is a long time for startups and competition. Yeah, no, that's a great idea. That's a great plan.
Oh, we'll see. Easier said than done.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But now you have some org
great.
and you have some infrastructure to build on top of.
Yeah. And again, it's a who problem. Like, who am I going to find to help me with all these things? So if anyone's listening out there and wants to think about joining RapidDev, you're tired of running an agency, hit me up. Always looking for talented people to join. But yeah, it's easier because we do have that infrastructure, and all it always comes down to is how do you treat your clients and your partners that you work with? Can you deliver a great experience? Delivering the work is one thing, but delivering a great experience along the way. We all know like awesome developers, right, guys? But like, I just had somebody email me the other day, was like, oh, I really don't like that guy. And I was sending a referral over to him. And I was really surprised, and it's just, he's a great developer, but he doesn't have like the best client interfacing skills.
Bedside manner,
Yeah, bedside manner. There you go.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that separates a freelancer from an agency is that it's like this whole entire experience of being taken care of and considered, and the thoughtfulness of not just like, hey, dear developer, can you fix this bug for me? And then, back and forth on testing and all that. It's great. Like, we're here as a partner to help you achieve your goals and dreams. And we can handhold you instead of just like you try to communicate with a developer. That's how it works.
Yep.
So I think
Exactly.
that's a good place for an agency to be in, especially if you're thinking about getting into new markets and new services, marketing, sales, go to market, strategy, automations, all of that. I think it's a cool offering there.
Yeah, you got a lot to do, but it's impressive with what you've done so far. For those that want to connect with you, how do they find you?
Good question. Probably, let's say it's hard to get a hold of me sometimes. Let's say LinkedIn, but it's going to take me a little while to get in touch with me. Maybe a few days. Emails, I'm much more good. I'm much better on. If you go on LinkedIn, you can find my email under the contact info. If you DM me on LinkedIn, I'll see it eventually. Just might take a few days. And also, if you're trying to get in touch with me, nag me, because if I do miss it, just try again. It's just a game of hit me. I'll reply eventually. I want to reply. I just get a lot of inbound.
Sure. And for good reason. You're a great guy, great agency owner. Thank you for coming on the show today. Really appreciate you sharing your insight with our listeners. So if you guys want to build an agency that is 90 plus and compete with RapidDev, he's giving you all the secrets now.
There you go. Secret sauce. Or just join me, guys. Come on. We can build something bigger together.
There we go. We're joint forces. Matt, thank you for coming on, and thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
I feel like our agency is super tiny. It's cool to see how he also stumbled into building an agency. I think that's like a really common, like most people don't go, hey, I'm going to go build an agent. I think a lot of people are like building something and then naturally it progresses into an agency.
Yeah.
So that was cool to see how that kind of went through. It's really impressive. I mean, 90 people is a big organization. It's a big company, especially when things aren't repeatable. Just like the managed chaos to be able to do that is the
sales process you need to be able to keep growing at that rate. Like I don't know how he sleeps at night. I'd be so worried about everything. It's really tough. It's really impressive.
Based on what time we were texting last night, I don't think he does sleep very much.
I think it gives me some optimism about agencies in general, the growth that he's seen, also his optimism about it, and just going into more and more and growing. I felt generally overall optimistic about it. And I mean, nuclear scientist, coming out of Harvard Business School, coming into NoCode and building this agency. Makes sense. He's one of the biggest ones in the game. Really nice guy. We've done some work with them. Great stuff that they're doing over there. So appreciate him coming on, sharing his knowledge. And for all of you, I hope you all enjoyed the interview, enjoyed this lesson, this episode. And we'll see you next week on This Week in NoCode.
See you next week in NoCode.
And don't let the agents bite you. Go ahead.
Boom, 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 boom.
Da-da-da.
Da-da-da.